Welcome to Decoding the Unknown with your host, Tiffany H. Lewis. Be prepared to believe. If you don't already, join Tiffany as she uncovers mysteries and secrets and shares them with you. Follow and subscribe on iHeartRadio and ClearSource Radio. Get in on the conversation live Fridays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time at 254-987-5027. Get ready to dive into the unknown.
Hi everyone! Welcome to Decoding the Unknown. This is Tiffany Lewis. I hope everyone's doing good. Thank you for joining me for the premiere of our very first episode today. I guess the first thing I'd like to do is discuss what this show is about, because I've had a lot of people ask me repeatedly, what is this show about? What is this show about? And it's not a simple answer. This show is like a puzzle that I'm going to work very hard with your help to crack. We're going to crack the code. We're going to uncover, discover. This is unlike any other radio show you've ever heard. This is an interactive radio show. So I want you guys to call in to my phone number and tell me your own personal stories, ask me questions, refute my evidence, dispute what I'm saying. And also, please go online to facebook.com/uncover and the number 8 and continue the discussion there. Or, again, refute my evidence, refute my proof, because every single thing that I will do, I will provide proof for, whether it's Bigfoot or paranormal or supernatural or aliens, existence, the proof thereof. Is there life after death? My way of thinking is not like anybody else's I can imagine. I believe in things, but it also takes me seeing them and feeling them and hearing them to believe them. So, again, this is an interactive radio show, and I want everybody to take part in this. My Skype phone number is the one that's played on the commercial right before this show began. Send me a request on Skype, and I'll be accepting phone calls live. I don't know if this show is going to be every single Friday night, because it does take a while to gather the evidence, and it takes, almost hundreds of hours just to gather enough evidence and proof for one show. But I will say that for every single topic that we discuss and for every show, I will be posting pictures, videos, audio, and any kind of factual information that may be pertinent to the subject on the Facebook page called Decoding the Unknown. You might have noticed that there is a website. It's called decodingtheunknown.com. It's up, but it's not really 100% ready yet, but I'll work on that. I've been really looking forward to doing this show. It is so different from every other show in the fact that this is a multi-party discussion. And I want you guys to dispute it. I'd love for you to say that I Photoshop something or, whatever. It doesn't matter what the situation is. This is an interactive show. I want your opinion. I want your own stories. I want you to tell them. I want you to call in. I want you to ask questions, because everything is going to be first-hand experience. These aren't going to be stories, by other people who I've passed it along to you. You're allowed to call and tell your story anytime that this show is on live at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on any Friday. Please follow the Facebook page Decoding the Unknown, so that you'll know, because I will create an event every time there is an upcoming show. And be ready to call in that night and tell your story. This isn't my story. The stories I'll be sharing with you are personal stories to me, and they are things that I have personally witnessed and have gathered enough evidence on to have a complete show about it with you. Then, at any point during the show, you can call in, or maybe I'll ask you at the end if anybody has any questions. And that's your opportunity to call in and ask as many questions as you want, or say whatever you would like to say. You will be on the air. This will be on Clear Source Radio, and it will also be on iHeartRadio. So, all right, guys, that's Decoding the Unknown. There are no limits. It's not a paranormal show. It is things that are not discussed, or, you know, every single day things that happen in every single day life. It's not about that at all. This is about rare, unique opportunities, and then the fact that you'll share your personal experience with the world. And I'll share my personal experiences from places that I visit, or topics that I am interested in, and then visit places on behalf of. And I'll share all of that with you. All the pictures, all the video, all the audio. Keep in mind that when dealing with the supernatural, or the paranormal, to be specific on this one, I don't get to keep most of the audio or the video recordings that I actually take. I don't even get to keep half the pictures. When I arrive at a cemetery or communicate with the other side in any way, as soon as I leave the premises, 9 out of 10 pictures are going to get deleted before I even get a chance to get home and look at them. And I don't know it at the time. Everything seems to be going really smoothly at the time. I spend hours at each cemetery, and this is just talking to the other side at a cemetery. This is just this piece of it. The videos disappear. Things show up in videos that weren't there when I was actually physically present at the graveyard. I am very respectful to those that have passed. I give them a lot of opportunities to communicate. I don't judge. I'm not disrespectful. I open my entrance a certain way, and I exit respectfully and thank them for their time and communication. Now, that's just cemeteries. That's just one piece. And I bring that up because we're going to be talking about cemeteries I visited in the last month. And the second half of tonight's show is going to be about an alien. I mean, by definition, a UFO. It flies. It's unidentified. It's an object. It's wheel-shaped. There is something in my front yard, a bright orange steering wheel shaped object that has a huge aura about it, a huge ring of light glowing and beaming off of it. And every day that it shows up in my front yard, which I'm notified by because it sets my doorbell alarm off, so it actually records it. So I'll be proving all of that and posting all of that on the Decoding the Unknown page. But about this orange object, I don't think it's a person. I think it's from another realm. I'm actually 100% certain of it. But every day it grows a little bit more comfortable or a little bit stronger, and it exhibits new appearances. It just started as this kind of weird pumpkin-shaped orange object in my front yard that was kind of far away back at the fence. It gradually moves closer and closer and closer and closer to where it's literally, not only is it right outside the front door, not only is it setting off my alarm every 5 minutes every time that it's here, which is every 3 days, and then it's here for a couple days, and then 3 days will go by, and then it's here for a couple days. It used to come at night, and now it comes between 8 and 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'm kind of learning its schedule. But what it's done now is it's expanded its circle of light. And by light, I mean rainbow colors, which you'll see in the pictures I'm going to post on Facebook. Also, outside of that immediate rainbow circle of light that surrounds it, we're starting to get other shapes and symbols, and there's bright lights, lots of bright lights. I mean, there's no way I could be making this up, because you'll see, things behind it. It shines, or whatever lands on top of people that are standing at my doorbell, and it's recording it on my recording doorbell, or sending me pictures of it from the doorbell. It can land on your shirt. It doesn't matter who it is or what it is, but it's not visible to the naked eye. Every time I open the door and I look, there's nothing there. Nothing at all. And you're going to see pictures, where I will walk out and take a picture and prove to you that there's nothing there. And it's going to have a timestamp on it, because this is being recorded on the doorbell. And then 10 seconds later, I'll come in the house and I'll look at the picture, and it'll be there on the picture, or on me, or on somebody else, whoever happens to be at the door. Or it just sets the alarm off whenever it feels like, which is, you don't get much sleep around here because of that when it's here. Thirdly, I want to talk to you about an orb, a very specific orb. It's a turquoise orb. I have done some research on it. And of course, I have how I personally feel about this. And then I've got what you can Google. It says that the color turquoise, and this is a bright turquoise, beautiful color, but supposedly shades of blue orbs are spiritual guides. And the more I allow myself to develop my abilities as a person, as a sensitive, the more I realize why this orb has been following me through several different states, like 18 different cities. It's been following me since I took a business trip several months ago. And it's in every picture. It's inside of my house. It's outside of my house. It does not matter what I take a picture of. It is in every single picture. And a little bit further more than that, ever since that turquoise orb came into my life, which I'm going to let you know off the bat, started following me in Denver, Colorado, when I visited a sacred grounds called Garden of the Gods. And it's sacred. It's like old Indian grounds. It's beautiful. You can feel it vibrate underneath of your feet. It is a very intense, amazing, mind-blowingly beautiful, out in the middle of nowhere, humongous space that you can just feel peace and love and guidance. I can't explain it very well, but I can say that it's the most peaceful I've ever felt in my entire life, and it stayed with me. And that trip happened at least 2 months ago. And the turquoise orb followed me through every single city and started appearing in these pictures ever since I stepped foot in Denver, or in Colorado, because I did go to about 14 different cities there in less than a week. So it started showing up in the pictures, even though I didn't see it. You can't see it with your naked eye, and I didn't see it at first. And it would take sometimes a few days or until I got home to realize that that turquoise orb was in every single picture. And then on top of that, something else started happening. Every time someone takes a picture of me, or I try to take a selfie, this white, I'm not going to call this one an orb. It's a white, imagine like one of those topsy-turvy top things that you spin on a table, old school, when we were kids, how you spin the little top, or not like a soda can top, but like I think it's actually called a top. Anyway, you spin this thing around and it forms this shape of sort of like pointy, and then like an egg in the middle, and then, maybe pointy again on the bottom. But it creates this roundish area. Anyway, every time I take a picture of myself or someone takes a picture of me, no matter what device, no matter what phone, no matter who, what, when, where, why, or how, this thing covers up my face. Only my face. Not anybody else, nothing else, just me. And it completely covers my face in every single picture, at least 75% of my entire face. And it shows itself, and it makes no sense because there's no additional lighting. There are no shades open. There are no blinds open. There's no reason for that to happen. And the reason why you'll believe the pictures when you see it is because you can see light passing through it and behind all of these pictures. You can always see the light passing through, or that I'm standing next to a window and that the shades are closed. And then you'll see pictures of before I was standing there and after I was standing there. And it only happens when I'm standing there. There's 2 specific rooms in my house where it likes to hover over the top of me. And then it began forming shapes on me. Again, this is all following that turquoise orb. And now, when I stand in specifically 2 certain rooms, I'm sure it's not exempt from any of the other rooms. I've just happened to notice it more in 2 rooms of my house. It forms a cross and a bluish, turquoise, whitish beam of light that literally goes right through me and or forms a cross through me, like the shape of a cross. Sometimes it's a white light, sometimes it's this real pretty blue, bright turquoise. And also the turquoise orb is guaranteed to be in the picture. So I don't know if they're related. I don't have the answers. All I have is the proof. I want to share it with you. I want to hear your guys' opinion. I want to see what you think. Feel free to try to debunk my photos, but please know I do not even know how to use Photoshop or even have that app if it's an app on my phone. And I wouldn't anyway. That would be a complete waste of my time and be the opposite of what I was trying to do on this show. I'm opening up a level of discussion to talk about anything at all that's outrageous and intense taboo, anything exciting, anything scary. Feel free to call in and tell your scary stories if you want. It doesn't matter, guys. This is your show. This is an interactive show. And, not only are we going to be decoding the unknown, but we're going to prove or disprove things, or maybe not, because we're not the only ones who have a say-so in this. And at the end of the day, you're either a believer or you're not. So it's up to you to choose if you believe. And, I don't know who's had experiences of what type. I don't know that you're not going to start seeing orbs after tonight's show or after looking at the pictures or any kind of other evidence that I provide. Maybe you'll see things that I don't even see in the pictures. Maybe you'll hear things that I don't even hear in the audio. And, most importantly with the audio, I can't stress it enough. I don't get to make it home with most of it. They, as in the others, the spirits, the spirit guide, whoever is guiding me to these locations that I didn't even know existed, that are not on a map. I just somehow find my way there, go there, spend time there, respectfully, usually with salt to protect myself, and attempt to communicate, and do communicate. And I see people from the other side who haven't passed on, and I don't try to convince them to, I'm not summoning them or asking them to, come from wherever they are over to our dimension or our realm and join me for a conversation. Usually people who communicate openly, spirits that communicate openly, disembodied voices, things like that. It's either history repeating itself, such as a traumatic situation that is just playing over and over and over again, like a record, or it's somebody a person or a spirit that is lost. And in the first episode, I'm not going to help anybody pass on. I'm not going to guide anyone to the light. I am going to have light for them. All these recordings and pictures for this first episode through the cemeteries were all taken during a full moon on a holiday weekend at midnight every night for several weeks. And like I said, I only made it home with a few actual recordings and pictures, but they're pretty alarming, especially when you see the first one. First graveyard, first time, several weeks ago, in complete pitch dark where you cannot even see your hand in front of your face. And I had the flashlight on my phone turned off, and we're just walking through the kind of gravel road that comes along the sides of, we're not walking on anybody's graves is what I'm saying. Something stops me, just halts me, brings me to a complete halt and says, take a picture. And my flash would have been on because it was, again, middle of the night. So I take a picture right where I'm standing. I am stopped in my tracks. I am completely halted. I take a picture, and what turns out to be right in front of me is a bench, like a headstone kind of bench that says my name on it, literally. So I followed, the guidance of whoever was guiding me to where, and I fully trust them that they're showing me where these cemeteries are that literally aren't on a map. I couldn't tell you how I got there. I couldn't tell you how to get there again. They're all extremely old cemeteries. The oldest headstone I saw was 1801, and you can imagine anything older than that probably doesn't have a headstone. A lot of them don't have headstones. I want you guys to do a little research on ghost houses, because I come across ghost houses in a couple of the graveyards or cemeteries that I visited in the last few weeks. So if you don't know what a ghost house is, I've done, what I think is an okay job of trying to explain it without Googling anything, just based off my knowledge. But feel free to Google it and learn more about ghost houses. They're prominently in like Japan or Thailand, maybe even China. I'm not sure, but we come across those, and every graveyard had its own experience. The others from the other side were not scared to show themselves to me. I was not afraid, and at the time, I didn't really hear anything other than footsteps, but I was able to catch some interesting clips, some audio clips, and this is just from a cell phone. I didn't have an EVP or a MP3 or any kind of other recorder. This is just from an iPhone, okay? So imagine the next time I visit, I'll actually have a way better voice capturing device in my hand that maybe will make it home with me and not disappear by the time I get home to listen to it to see if I could catch anything, any voices or any communication on the recordings. But again, I was able to make it home with a few clips, luckily, a couple hours of audio. As I weed through them, I'm going to be sharing little clips with you. I try to play each one at least a few times so that you can hear it. And maybe you can make out what it's saying. Maybe it's breathing. Maybe it's footsteps. I promise you, at every single graveyard, footsteps were always coming from behind me and walking towards me every single time at every single grave that I sat on top or in front of, with their permission, of course. And I greeted them. I introduced myself. Every time I enter a graveyard, I introduce myself, and then I thank them and ask them kindly, to speak if they want to speak, completely respectfully. And I never leave without closing it and saying goodbye and thank you. In other shows. We're not going to have time in this one, but we're going to have a conversation about demonic entities one day and Ouija boards and things like that. But tonight, let's see what I found. Let's listen to it and let's see it, and let me play it for you. And most importantly, I want you to call in and ask questions and go on to the Facebook page, Decoding the Unknown, after the show is over, and I'll post all the pictures and videos. And I want you guys to communicate with me, communicate each other. I want to form a strong community of people. And it doesn't matter if you believe or not. It's not my job to make a believer out of you, but it's pretty alarming evidence. And it's not, there's nothing about it that can be faked or, like I said, photoshopped or whatever. I guess maybe it could be, but it's not possible because light, dark, and gray matter passes between, around, in front of, above it, behind it, beyond it, completely. Light passes through it. And it goes on top of solid objects, or light passes through it. So it's not possible to pretend or make up these pictures somehow. So let's blow your mind. Let's get right into the show now. Thank you again for tuning in. And just follow the Facebook page to see when the next show is going to be. But tonight we're going to talk about disembodied voices from beyond the grave. I've told you my story about the orange UFO in my front yard, and I've told you my story about the turquoise orb that's been following me for several months. And I'll be posting pictures of all of that. And again, call in. Let's talk about this. I am totally open to you calling in and telling your story, or just telling me that you don't believe mine. It doesn't matter. That's okay. This is an open line interactive radio show. So please enjoy. Here we go. All right, here comes our second clip. The importance of this clip is, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm being guided to these locations. Never been there before. Don't know how to get there again. I don't know what these cemeteries are called. Literally no clue whatsoever. And then when I get there, I'm guided by the others, from the other side. And I'm guided by those that choose to communicate with me. I don't force them. I don't have seances. I don't play with Ouija boards, especially at cemeteries. But the point of this next clip, here comes clip 1. All right, guys, here comes our first clip that I'd like to play for you. It's got disembodied voices. This was taken at a cemetery. I visited maybe 8 different cemeteries. Most, if not all of them, date back to the 1800s. The oldest headstone that I saw was from 1801. And this clip right here kind of just comes out with a bang. So here we go.
It's a full moon tonight. I see my turquoise orb.
Did you catch that? It said no good. Let me back it up. I'm going to play it again. This is awesome. This was at Greenwood Cemetery. I want you to know I've been guided to every single one of these locations. They're not on a map. I've never been there before. I don't know how to get there again. They're not labeled cemeteries or graveyards. There are no signs. It's pitch dark. These all happen at midnight or later during a full moon. And again, I'm guided to each one in complete darkness. It guides me where to go. I somehow see a cemetery or a graveyard just kind of off of a random dark road that I've never even been on before. And then I get there and it guides me which way to go. I want you to know I'm completely respectful to those that are buried there. I come in and I say an opening prayer and I invite them to communicate. And before I leave, I always say a closing prayer and thank you. But here comes that clip again, because this is an important piece. I've told you the story about the turquoise orb following me from Denver back to Austin for the last couple of months of my life. Everywhere I go, every picture, every video, doesn't matter where I am, doesn't matter what I'm looking at, doesn't matter what I'm taking a picture of, that turquoise orb is on me, like just all on me, all around me, all the time. So here comes the clip.
It's a full moon tonight. I see my turquoise orb.
Did you hear it? It says, no good. I'm going to play it again. I don't want you guys to think that I'm making this up. This was all recorded by me. I visit places. I follow whomever is guiding me to which location, to which grave, to which headstone. One more time. Now I know you heard that. So, thinking that this turquoise, beautiful orb was a spirit guide, I just kind of got freaked out by that, because now I'm like, as soon as I actually said the words, hey, look, there's my turquoise orb, and then a disembodied voice at a graveyard after midnight on a full moon says, no good. Talk about freaked out. And you don't get to see or hear these things at the time. It's very quiet. It's very dark. Complete silence. So let me get a couple of more clips from the other graveyards. All right, here comes our second clip. The importance of this clip is, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm being guided to these locations. Never been there before. Don't know how to get there again. I don't know what these cemeteries are called. Literally no clue whatsoever. And then when I get there, I'm guided by the others, from the other side. And I'm guided by those that choose to communicate with me. I don't force them. I don't have seances. I don't play with Ouija boards, especially at cemeteries. But the point of this next clip is maybe you'll catch a little glimpse of how I speak to them and how respectful I am to them. But more importantly, in almost every one of the audio recordings that I was allowed to come home with, because 9 out of 10 were deleted before I got home, unbeknownst to me at the time. So say I sat there for 3 hours and communicated with 3 or 4 or 5 people from the other side, right? Beings, entities. And say I saw 3 or 4 of them and I took pictures. By the time I went back to look at the picture, completely deleted off of my phone. Audio, video, gone, wiped away. Where I know I just sat there for several hours and recorded, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clips at each cemetery. And I guarantee you, out of 8 cemeteries and all of the videos and all of the audio and all of the pictures, I probably made it home with 5 recordings, all under 14 minutes, where I know I've recorded for an hour. So this one is to demonstrate the sound of what sounds like a really loud airplane flying overhead. And at the time, I didn't hear it. So they get to choose what I hear, when I hear it, if I'm allowed to hear it. And then it sounds different if I'm allowed to bring it home and I'm actually allowed to listen to it. We notice the things in the background, like the voices. It's just like an EVP, which is an electronic voice phenomena. And this airplane, I've noticed, has followed me through 3 or 4 different cemeteries. But you can't hear it at the time. It's completely dark, completely silent. I have a flashlight. I turn it off. I'm super gentle with the spirits and just really respectful. I'll bring them a candle. I'll bring them flowers. I, again, introduce myself and I thank them on the way out. So here comes the non-existent airplane that keeps turning up in my audio and videos, which was not there, and there's no airport anywhere near any of the cemeteries that I visited. And there definitely wasn't an airplane right over my head. So here comes this beast.
I'm sitting on top of her right now. There's no headstone, but I can feel it. I feel the ground underneath me caving in. Whose gravestone am I walking on right now? Whose grave? Right here, this little one.
Okay, I'm going to pause that recording. So, as you heard, you hear this really loud airplane kind of directly fly over my head that doesn't actually exist. Was not there. And my proof is, if I had heard an airplane, I would have stopped the recording and let it pass over. Number 1. Number 2, if I had heard an airplane, do you think that I would have continued to talk in the same tone, the same level? Or do you think I would have raised my voice quite a bit to talk over the airplane? I mean, common sense would tell you that you can't pause a recording in the middle of recording it. Not on a video, not on an iPhone. So if I didn't turn it off, then I clearly didn't hear or see an airplane. And if you can hear the airplane going over me and I'm continuing to talk through it, under it, in the same volume that I was at before, then that proves that I didn't hear it, because I would have raised my voice or stopped the recording, like I said, and let it pass over. All right, so that's 2. I've got plenty more. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information before I play the 3rd clip. I am at a cemetery somewhere in Austin, Texas. This is the only one that I actually know the name of. It's called Assumption Cemetery. And I am guided to a beautiful bench. And as I get closer to it, I realize it's a young man, and his name is Jacob. And it's got all these pictures of him. He obviously was in high school. He played football. And I asked him if it was okay if I communicated with him. But I want you guys all to know that, like I said, I don't try to bring them back from the other side to communicate with me. I do not call upon them. If they're there, or if they're lost, or somewhere in between and they're able to communicate, great. But I don't force it, and I don't call on them or attempt to get them to come over to the side where I can make out what they're actually saying. We could have a whole conversation on white noise and audible versus inaudible, but I try to provide good proof. So this one, to me, is a good example of a clear, disembodied voice. I took this with my phone on my video, and it's just one of the few that I was allowed to take home and am allowed to share with you. So this is Jacob. And before I share Jacob's message with you, let me give you a little bit of background. I'm talking to him and I say, goodness, Jacob, you know, what happened to you? How did you die? Are you okay? Your parents, they love you so much. I bet you miss your parents. And he says, yes, very clearly. All right. It's completely dark. It's a full moon. It sounds like another human being just having a conversation in some ways. This particular cemetery was very loud, very noisy. I saw many entities. It also happens to be the first one that I visited, and I visited it twice. And I'd like to just briefly tell you about the first time that I visited it. A couple of weeks ago, because I've been working on these recordings for weeks. Once I realized I wasn't going to get home with 99% of any of the pictures or audio or video, obviously it took weeks for me to gain the little bit of phenomena that I have in the voices and the pictures. And I'm going to post all these pictures and some of the audio and some of the video on the Facebook page, Decoding the Unknown, which is, you know, facebook.com/ I think it's encode 8. I don't know, but it's Decoding the Unknown, not decodingtheunknown.com. That page was opened by mistake. It should not be published, but I have a feeling that it still is for another few days. So look for Decoding the Unknown, not decodingtheunknown.com. Part 2 of that, there's a website that is being built as we speak. It's decodingtheunknown.com, but it's not ready yet. All right, so back to Jacob's story. Assumption Cemetery, Saturday, 1:09 a.m. And the last thing I want to say before I share Jacob's message with you in regards to his family and his parents and how much he misses them and loves them, straight from his own voice. I want to say that when I first approached this cemetery, again, it's pitch dark. I have this inclination to trust where I'm going. I'm being guided somehow. It's like someone is holding your hand and walking you to where you need to be. Completely in the dark, completely silent. There is no one else around. There are no lights. There are no cars driving by. These cemeteries are literally like, pick a random street, drive all the way down, and oh my gosh, look on the left. That kind of resembles a cemetery. Or a couple of trees that catch my interest that just so happen to be smaller cemeteries, you know, from the 1800s. Anyway, the thing about this particular cemetery, which is the only one that I actually know the name of and could find again, is that as I'm walking through the gates and in the dark, almost as if I had my eyes closed, and it's like they grabbed my hands, because I met several interesting entities there. There was Jacob, there was Sophia, really great kids at that cemetery, and they led me in the dark, and I'm walking kind of on the gravel road that you walk on, and there are graves to the left and graves to the right, and graves over a hill, and it was really beautiful property that was really large. And something stops me. It halts me. Right, I'm taking steps, and then it's just right then and there. It says stop. So I listened, and I stopped right there in my tracks. Again, no lights, not even flashlights, not even candles, nothing. And it says to stop and take a picture. And because it's nighttime, my flash was going to automatically turn on because that's a setting that I have my iPhone set to. So I stop where I am, and I just stand right there, and I just snap a picture, and the flash comes on. And no joke, there's a bench right in front of me that literally says my name on it. Just right in front of me. Now, that was my first cemetery on my first night, and it said my name. So whomever was guiding me through there obviously wanted it to be known that they were there with me and they were guiding me. And I'm kind of not sure how I feel about seeing my name, and it's such a rare name. All right, so back to Jacob's story, and then hopefully I will be able to share some of Sophia's story with you after that. Here comes Jacob's story.
Did you miss your parents, huh?
Did you catch that? I'm going to play it again. Let me back it up a little. I said, I bet you miss your parents, don't you? And he says, yes.
Did you miss your parents, huh?
Did you hear it? I'm going to play it one more time. And he sounds sad. You can pick up on the emotion in his voice, not just a disembodied voice, but a very clear, abundant yes in a sad way.
Did you miss your parents, huh?
I hope you heard that. I played it 3 times. So that one's for you, Jacob. All right, everyone, here comes clip number 4. This is at one of the graveyards. This is Sophia's story. Not that I know Sophia, but I can tell you that she was a little girl. She had a beautiful bench at one of the cemeteries that I visited, and I spent a lot of time with her. And I remember being pretty upset, pretty concerned that this graveyard was so old that the graves and the headstones were just literally piled on top of each other. Most of them weren't even marked, and that's probably why Sophia stood out to me. She had this beautiful bench, and it was just amazing. You could just see how how loved she was, and how much her loved ones still came out to visit her grave. And I'm not even sure what she says in this segment of this clip, but let's call this part 1 of Sophia's clip, because she's going to say a little bit more than this. But let's start with this one.
You have a message for me, sweetie? Can you show yourself at least?
All right, did you hear that? I'm going to back it up just a little bit, and I'm going to play it again. She was really eager to communicate. I also, I saw her when I was there as well.
Can you show yourself at least 2 feet away from me right now? Let me see what you look like. Please. reassure yourself at least. You have a message for me, sweetie?
I hope you heard that. I have no idea what she said. And the point of me sharing that one with you was to tell you that, like I've said probably multiple times at this point, I am only allowed to listen to or bring home certain videos, audios, and pictures that they allow me to bring home. Some things are only meant for us to see and are not meant to be shared with others. So this is something that I am thankful for, and I think that we're very fortunate that I'm even able to bring this particular audio clip home, and the pictures that I did capture and the videos, that I'm able to share it with you, because like I've said, 9 times out of 10, I don't even get home and then I realize, I'll go back to watch it or whatever, and it just is completely deleted. I hope I can find this next clip when I'm talking to Sophia, and I had a lengthy conversation with her, by the way, and she's just a sweet little girl about 7 or 8 years old, and all these other graves were just piled on top of her in this really old graveyard. And like I said, it was upsetting. So, they can feel our emotions, and sometimes we can, more times than not, we can feel their emotions as well, or they show us, or they tell us how they feel. And this is not for everybody. And you don't have to be a believer in the afterlife, or in messengers, or angels, or demons, or other dimensions, or other realms, or the infinite possibility of infinite dimensions and realms. But I hope to provide you with some proof. And if I can find the second clip of Sophia, you're going to hear a baby crying, and they're clear. Okay, this next clip that I'm going to play is a perfect example of how I always thank the spirits before I leave a cemetery, or even an area where a body is or could be buried. Because some of these are really old, you don't actually know if there's any indicator that there's actually a body buried there. But I always say thank you, and I usually get a response. And here's one. Did you hear that? Back it up. I said thank you, and it goes, shh. One more time. It's pretty amazing to learn how interactive they are in the right circumstances. And I know that the full moon had a lot to do with me capturing as many voices and pictures and videos, even though I didn't get to bring 99% of them home or ever get to listen to them after I recorded them. Once I left the cemetery, in the distance between the cemetery and my house, they were deleted. Most of the pictures. This next clip that I'm going to play for you is another very old cemetery. Like I've said, the oldest headstone that I was able to make out words or numbers on was dated to 1801. And I believe the person lived to be 96 years old. So that was pretty fascinating. So in this particular clip, I first want to tell you about the graveyard. This graveyard, there are two things that stand out about it. The first one is that again, they're not noticeable. You are guided to them, or I was guided to them on just the sides of some random road that I've never been on before. But when you walk on them, my feet would sink in 4, 5, 6 inches into the ground. It was like the ground was vibrating and caving in underneath of you. And you didn't even know if you were walking on somebody's, burial site or how they were even buried whenever they were buried there, because a lot of them didn't have names or headstones. And it was just, very sad to walk along what you think is a road or some space between a couple of trees, and you walk and your feet sink in so much so that you feel like if you accidentally pushed your foot a little bit harder, you would actually step on their bones or a wooden box, probably in most of their cases from the 1800s. Secondly, this particular graveyard had the most amazing and mystifying, I guess we would call them headstones, that I've ever seen in America. I wonder how many of you know what a ghost house is. I kind of want you to Google it and do your own research, and without me investigating it further, I'm just going to tell you off the top of my head what a ghost house is, according to what I understand it to be. Japan, maybe Thailand, maybe China. When a person passes away, a ghost house contains their personal belongings, and families come to visit the little house for them and put flowers in there or communicate with their loved one. And I know for a fact that you're not allowed to touch someone's ghost house. And if you do, then a curse will fall upon you, and that will likely be, your demise. But at this specific cemetery, there was a lot of headstones that looked like ghost houses. So imagine a 4 to 6 foot tall piece of concrete that stood up like an old school headstone, right? But this is square. So it's a big square, and in the middle of that square is the center is cut out, and there are several inches of room between the entrance of the headstone all the way to inside of it, and then it circles around on the top, so it makes like an upside down U, like the shape of, like a Halloween headstone. It's an upside down U inside of a cement square. And that piece is important because there's something to do with cement. There's some connection here. Whereas ghost houses are actually probably wooden. But at this particular graveyard, there were a lot of these houses. And inside of each one of the, houses, sometimes there would be angels on top or something, but there was always that person or their family's personal belongings inside of the space, inside of the headstone. And then I guess the family, there would be 5 or 6 or 7 of them in each particular patch of an area. And then that entire patch would be cemented in a square, and inside of it would contain all of those house type headstones with personal belongings in each one. I think the most I saw in one patch would be maybe 5 or 6 of them. All right, so this is a clip from the cemetery that I just described to you. I hope that I properly described it and gave it the justice that it deserves, because it was beautiful, but it was intense. And remember, this is all happening in the last few weeks. We've got a full moon going on. It's 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Alone, dark, real silent, very, very silent. And then you stumble upon what look like ghost houses. They're humongous cement headstones with a upside down U carved inside of them, and then items placed inside, recent items that you can tell somebody comes and puts more items in there for a child. It could be a teddy bear, it could be flowers, but I didn't see flowers very much on these. I saw things like Mary, the statue of Mary, crosses, rosaries, children's belongings. One of them even had Mountain Dew sitting in it, or Monster, or some energy drink or something. I don't know. I guess it's whatever they like, or whatever their favorite things were. So here's a clip from one of the recorded, documented pieces from that specific cemetery.
What is your message for me? How did you die?
Okay, did you hear that? I'm going to rewind it and play it again. And I want you to know up front, so that I don't offend anybody, I don't normally ask an entity how they died or how they passed on. But sometimes, in order to get a response, you have to ask a lot of questions. So, and again, me finding this random graveyard out in the middle of nowhere, attended to, in the dark, it was lonely and it was sad. So I wanted to spend some time there. So in this particular case, I asked the person, what is your message for me and how did you die? And I don't know which one he responded to, but I hear a male's voice and I can't make out the words. And then I hear a beep, sort of like a watch timer going off. And I don't wear watches. I did not have a watch on. There was nothing on my phone that could have made that noise. So let's play that piece again.
What would you like me to know?
Do you hear that watch kind of noise? It's sort of like a watch beeping, like if an alarm were going to go off. This is a different piece of the audio. I just want you to hear the beep.
What would you like me to know? What would you like Ada or Ada to know? Is she here with you?
Okay, so hopefully you heard what sounds like the beeping of a watch. And I bring that to your attention because sometimes spirits choose not to speak verbally. I had more than my fair share of them walk up behind me, and you can hear their footsteps coming from, quite a distance away. And you can, I can see them in front of me. I can hear when they're coming behind me. Sometimes they show themselves to me. Sometimes they allow me to record them. And sometimes, rather than speaking, they make noises or knock or tap, or just like you just heard, imitate the sound of sort of a watch beeping at you, going off like an old school digital watch. And I assure you, I was not wearing a watch, but they are so capable of making contact in so many ways. And it's, I'm glad I got to share that with you guys. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. What a great show tonight. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about the orange UFO in my front yard, but I will be posting pictures on Facebook. Go to Decoding the Unknown on Facebook. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's very first episode of Decoding the Unknown. This is Tiffany Lewis. So, did I make a believer out of you? Do you have stories of your own to share? Are you spooked yet? I didn't make those EVP.
Welcome to Decoding the Unknown with your host, Tiffany H. Lewis. Be prepared to believe. If you don't already, join Tiffany as she uncovers mysteries and secrets and shares them with you. Follow and subscribe on iHeartRadio and ClearSource Radio. Get in on the conversation live Fridays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time at 254-987-5027. Get ready to dive into the unknown.
Please write that phone number down, guys, and send me a message on Skype so that I can befriend you on Skype and accept your calls. I'm pretty sure it says Tiffany H. Lewis, Be the Change. I'm not difficult to find on Skype at all. And thank you all for tuning in. And everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful evening.